Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Nomad Experts podcast by Commute. Today, we've got Jeff and Marissa, and we're going to talk about the 7 highest paying digital nomad jobs. Everybody likes to talk about money, and specifically making a lot of money, especially as a digital nomad. So being able to travel, live your dreams out, and make the same or even more money than you would working 9 to 5 in a cubicle and commuting in traffic. So we're going to talk about the different careers that you can take to make that happen. If you're already in that career, great. If you're not in that career, a lot of these you can get your foot in the door and then start making some really good money. So before we do that, Marissa, let's check in. How you doing?
I am good. I'm excited to chat about this topic, especially because there's so much misinformation out there on the internet. As always, Jeff and I love to debunk this. So I think before we even jump right into those careers, we want to talk a little bit about how we came to these. So if you just do a quick Google search for top digital nomad jobs, you will find, actually do it now. Because when I did this before, we have the jobs that we know to be true based on the people we've actually traveled with, real salaries, real digital nomads. But we like to check and see what you might find had you not listened to this podcast and just tried to research this on your own. So the first one I saw before, I'm curious if this comes up for you too, Jeff, was virtual assistant, which I know to be true is one of the absolute lowest paying digital nomad jobs that you can get out there by far. So we share that because there's so much misinformation on the internet. And this is one of those really popular questions. If you're not yet traveling, you want to be able to have a great salary, travel the world, afford the lifestyle, keep progressing in your career. Everyone wants to know, like, what jobs do you pursue? What jobs are people really doing? So we're going to share the top 7 today. And beyond those, there are so many more jobs. So this is not a complete list of, like, the only jobs you should pursue by any means. But we thought it would be fun to talk about, like, in reality, what some of these are. So just to talk about some of those parameters before we jump in, is that actually know them to be true based on real people, real friends, real clients, like real digital nomads that we actually know, not just a false list that's telling you information that's not real. So that was number 1, and I think a very important parameter. Number 2, the other thing you'll find, and I'm curious if you see this, Jeff, in a second, but if you also search for, top digital nomad jobs, I see a lot of jobs that you actually need to be remote in the US. Like, they won't actually let you travel, or remote in whatever country you're in. So the second parameter I had when thinking about this was they actually let you, like, you can travel to different countries, not just work remote from home in your country. And number 3, you can make a lot of great money as an entrepreneur. Starting, like, there is no cap to that of the type of businesses you could start in any field. But for this, we're talking about paid jobs that you get with a company that already exists, so working as an employee. Before we jump in, Jeff, anything you want to add to those parameters and or anything you see when you first did your Google search for digital nomad jobs?
Something you need to keep in mind when you're researching this stuff online, anything digital nomad related, coming from a background in content marketing, I know how this content is being created, and I'd say 99.9% of the time it's not being created by digital nomads, which is why we feel like we have to have these podcasts, so that you give like a dose of reality. So you're not getting fake news, you're not getting false information. Generally, this content is getting created by content creators themselves, or like content marketing agencies, written by writers, not digital
And you're
nomads.
Talking about those top lists of top jobs, top this,
And when you search digital nomad jobs, top paying digital nomad jobs, whatever you're seeing show up on the top of Google search results, take it with a huge grain of salt, or don't even trust it. Really, I'd say don't even trust it, because from my background, I know these are getting created by content creators. And how do content creators come up with these lists? They research other lists, and then they just kind of regurgitate the stuff they've already. And then all of a sudden, you get this Frankenstein of who knows where this stuff came from. It's never been fact checked by any digital nomads. So I think this is a really important conversation to have, especially for a lot of early digital nomads that are looking to figure out, like, what's the right career for me that's going to let me travel. Don't listen to these lists. We're going to help you out, because we've met Diego's got 1,000+ people in his community. He's been running Wi-Fi Tribe for 10 years. We know hundreds of people. We got a really good pulse, finger on the pulse of what's actually going on out there. So we'll give you a better idea of which jobs are actually realistic, that are going to make you some decent money. You know, it's kind of funny. Just real quick, I'm going to spend a couple seconds on this. Looking through this list, You've got the virtual assistant, which is just dead wrong. Freelance writing. That's one of those ones where it's like the top 1%.
Yeah. I would say, to be fair, that is a top, like, we know a lot of freelance writers as digital nomads, but definitely not necessarily the top paying.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what this particular topic is about today. So accurate on you can do it as a nomad. Accurate that you can make pretty decent money, but it's not like one of those top paying jobs for sure.
Number 3, this is the top result here. Website flipping. Marissa, how many people have you met that is a professional website flipper?
I know officially 0. I know people who have looked into it. I've heard about people doing it. I know like people buy and sell businesses. I actually do know a lot about that, but maybe people, someone who's doing it well might make good money. That is on the entrepreneurial route also, but I've also never met, I mean, we have, I think collectively, like I have met, it's got to be over like 2,000 digital nomads who I've personally talked to, know what they do, between all of the like the Wi-Fi tribe chapters I've done, Nomad Cruise where I'm meeting hundreds of people, Nomad Fest where I'm meeting hundreds of people and knowing what all their careers are. And I love this conversation, so I talk to people about their jobs and salaries. I know people who flip businesses. That's a stretch, but I don't know anyone who's gotten into the website flipping yet. Who travels? Who also travels?
That's actually the first time I've seen that combination of words together.
People,
website flipping.
Basically, you take a website that like could be performing well and then like do a good job and sell it. But people also like buy and sell domains. That's not what this is talking about. Like you might like see a domain name that's pretty cheap and be like, someone will buy this business eventually. So you just buy a bunch of domain names and then eventually someone buys it, but that's a little bit different too. So those are out there, but yeah, I've never met one as a digital nomad.
There's our favorite. It had to make it on the list. Instagram influencer, number 14.
Yes.
Every time, without fail. That's the one we've been trying to debunk for the last 4 years we've been doing this. People thinking they have to do that kind of thing. Not real.
I did tell you, Jeff, I met my first, I feel like, Instagram influencer in the wild in Costa Rica. This was 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
Pure source of income?
Sole source. They were this couple. They were young. I was at this outdoor, it's a cool gym. It was like this outdoor gym with the beach view, like looks like Muscle Beach in like Miami. And they were out there filming content. I told you, someone connected me. The owner of the gym was like talking to them, and he was like, Marissa, you need to talk to these people. They're trying to figure out, they're brand new digital nomads. They're trying to figure out where to live. So they started asking me like, where are the best places to live? Like we're trying to start to, be more tax free, do, all these things. And at the end, he was like, what's your Instagram? Like, let's switch and trade. And then later I looked in and saw he was an Instagram influencer and an OnlyFans influencer. So I love the double combo. Truly making good money, I really do believe, because they were looking for some like tax not evasion, that's the wrong word, but like some true digital nomad tax strategies to live, because they were making good money as influencers in this way. So it does exist, but that's the first one I've met. Like that I personally, like I know some kind of peripherally, but like anyway, it does exist, but it's so rare. It's like 1 in 3,000.
I'm surprised you met an Instagram influencer and that wasn't the first thing they said to you.
They were so nice. They were honestly so nice, and they were like asking the questions. Wow. They were like, we're trying to find like a good place to live with a decent whatever, because we want to film content. They were talking about it. So I was like, okay, I see you. But yeah, it's rare. So with that, Jeff, you want to jump into, so we're going to talk about the list of 7 highest paying digital nomad jobs that we, again, see in the wild with our friends. We know a lot of people doing each of these. And again, you can do as an employee to get started. They're real. You can do it while you travel, because we see it all the time. So Jeff, you want to pop in with number 1? Yeah,
this one's it's in no particular order, but it happens to be probably the most popular one I've seen while traveling. That's a software engineer. And what I mean by software engineer is there's a couple different components to this, and we are not experts in this. Experts isn't even the right word. We're not even close to being able to
Me and you
talk about what they do. Me and you specifically, it's just it's Greek to us. But software engineer typically refers to somebody that's working on so they're creating systems, creating tools, creating apps, doing the back end of websites. Lot of education. A lot of these people are very self-taught, I've found, but a lot of self-teaching required to understand the things that you need to do this. But once they do, you're gold. That's a great job for digital nomad, because typically there's a lot of good things going on with that. They have very few calls from what I've seen. I've hardly seen software engineers on more than a call a day. Maybe one software engineer I see on a call a day. They require low internet. I mean, like the coding they're doing, it requires very little bandwidth. A lot of times they're working independently. A lot of times they're working as entrepreneurs, freelancers. Their flexibility is like just through the roof. And then on top of that, their skill set is so in demand. Like they are needed for everything. They can trip and fall on work on accident. Like it's just like, it's such an incredible skill for people to have. It's transferable all over the place and the demand is great. So there's a reason why it's such a good digital nomad job. And not to mention, it is really high paying. Most of the ones that I know make really, really good money.
100%. I say with the salary, like I think a lot of those starting-ish salaries are $150K plus, just the entry-ish level, like maybe a little bit of experience, but pretty close there. And I feel like a lot of our friends that are, have been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years are making definitely $200K plus while traveling. I know that as a fact for some of the I have, clients who are software engineers and digital nomads and actually know what they're making, all of that. So definitely can easily be in that $200K plus range. And like you said, all the benefits of travel and just how common it is. Like I think about yours and my, I say this, your and my personal group. I feel like 30% of them are software engineers, like really and truly. It's a pretty high number. Like I was just when I was in Costa Rica, just with like, there's 8 of us together there, like 2 of them were software engineers, right? Like that's 2 out of 8, whatever, that's 25%. So I really do feel like this one, not only is it high paying, but it's also really common. And we don't always talk about it as much because you kind of have to either go through a boot camp or teach yourself or get a little bit of education in order to start. But it's easily, just like one of the most common, like one of the highest paying jobs and also one of the most commonly hired for. So if you are into this role, if it feels appealing to be spending your days coding and sort of figuring out these sort of problems, this is not Jeff and I. Like this is not where our minds go. It is not our zone of genius. It's not my place. But a lot of the people we travel with love it and really enjoy it. So yeah. Okay, so number 2 we have, it sounds sort of similar, but it's different. And this is a web developer. So if you want to kind of pull it, I feel like sometimes they kind of all get jumbled together with like software engineers and like all the stuff that like comes with web. So we think about software engineer, that's more of like the coding on the back end of apps, of websites, of whatever it is someone's building. Whereas the web developer is really looking at building like the front end of websites. So they are a little bit different. I would say software engineers typically get paid a little bit more, but web developers also make great salary, definitely high in demand. There are a lot of, like drag and drop, like I can build a website by myself, but it's not going to be as good as we've seen. We work with web developers for Beach Commute. We love them because it's not how we personally want to spend our time. It's not our zone of genius to be building that out ourselves. And I feel like every other day someone's creating websites, web pages, websites are breaking, things are going wrong. So it's great to have that web developer on hand. And there's often, these jobs are often being hired for. And we know a lot. Like I definitely can think of 5 or so people I know offhand who I've personally lived with, traveled with as a digital nomad. So anything else you want to add to this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I think this one's great because the barrier to entry is a little bit lower. And like you just said, a lot of times, sure, we can do it. We're going to do it a lot slower and probably not as well, right? So like anybody can technically do drag and drop builders. It's more and more common now because most new websites popping up are not custom coded anymore. They're like very much Wix or Squarespace or WordPress drag and drop builder type of stuff. So technically it is doable by anybody, but if you specialize in that, you can become better than the average person, and you can get your foot in the door, and people just want to offload it because it's just so much work. If you're faster and you're better at it, you'll get paid pretty well. It's just one of those things people do not want to do, like me, I don't trust myself to do a great job with it. It requires so much attention to detail because you have to create a desktop site, and that has to translate to mobile, and it has to be pixel perfect, right? So there's so much attention to detail to it. So if it's something that you really like doing, attention to detail, design, making things, solving problems, making things look really, really good on a website, it's probably a really good foot in the door type of thing. And none of the freelancers that I know like need or have to represent a college degree in anything. It's just like, if you know it, you'll probably get the job. And you basically want to just build a nice portfolio and get some references and stuff. So that's a really, really good job for digital nomads with a much lower barrier to entry, I would say.
Perfect. All right. Should we move to number 3?
Yeah, number 3 is a business data analyst or / data scientist, data people, right? So there's a distinction between data scientist and business data analyst. The data scientists, these people are really, really sophisticated with like macro amounts of data and able to process it in ways using SQL, using all kinds of stuff that builds dashboards and stuff. I do like a light version of that. Previously, I spent most of my time just combing through marketing data and analyzing it 6 different ways to Sunday, building dashboards, and basically consulting and making decisions on how a company should run based on that data, right? So that is kind of a strange background. I can't really tell you how you go in linearly into that type of job, because I just took a weird route through like SEO and then general marketing and then CMO, and then all of a sudden all these numbers started coming together. I'm like, oh, okay, I can just kind of build a career off of analyzing data. But I will say, similar to programming, you're working in numbers quite a bit, spreadsheets, and you're kind of working asynchronously. Not a ton of meetings, not really a ton of Wi-Fi needed. And it's a skill that a lot of people want to outsource. It's just not something that first off, they don't necessarily want to hire somebody full-time to do it, because that's way more expensive than getting somebody in that's like super targeted just on a retainer. So it's a really good entrepreneurial thing to do. And it's also a specialized skill set. So you'll generally get pretty decent pay for that kind of thing.
But there are big companies that definitely... I was going to say, there are some bigger companies that do hire for this as well. And we have a couple friends I think of that I've traveled with that have been doing this for many years, working full time for a company. But what else were you going to say?
Maybe with our friend Thomas. You have some insights into what he's doing today.
That's not my joke, but he's always the first one I think of. Our friend Thomas is from Lithuania. He works for a British company. He's worked for the same company for 5+ years that I've known him as a nomad, and I don't know what he does day to day. He's not on that many calls, every now and then, but mostly he's just analyzing his data on his own time, his own terms. Yeah, works for a big company. So if numbers, it's funny. I know you're saying it's like software engineers are also, it's like so different. It's like, software engineering seems like numbers and coding, all of that, but I feel like your brain, you would be a fantastic like data scientist for sure. Like I feel like you're a whiz at that and love it. So again, if it like excites you to look at numbers and analyze things and trends and take massive amounts of all sorts of data and bring it together to tell a story and find an answer and move forward, that could be for you. So anything else on that one before we move forward?
No.
All right. So number 4 is marketing. And this one, Jeff and I were talking a lot about before. Yeah, because it can be one of the highest paying jobs, and it can also be a pretty low paying entry level job. So this one really depends what you do within marketing, as we've talked about. So Jeff and Diego and I all have marketing backgrounds of some sort. And there's so many different like in marketing that you can go. But as Jeff said, Jeff came from being a CM of a marketing agency while living as a digital nomad, and you can get paid a great amount for that. There's some high-end, directors of marketing. If you're, making high-end decisions and really impacting a company, you can get paid really well. You can also be a marketing analyst or, entry-level social media marketer and make a decent salary that definitely lets you, affords this digital nomad lifestyle, but it wouldn't be one of the highest paying jobs if it's not one of those that's already kind of like you've been working your way up for a little bit. So when I think about like a software engineer versus a marketer, if you have no experience and you're just let's say you spend 6 weeks doing your coding boot camp, and then you get a little experience, and like maybe within 6 months you can probably be making pretty easily over 100K, 150K. Whereas marketing, I feel like it takes more years to kind of build up to that, but then you can have 150K to 250K pretty easily marketing jobs. And we have a lot of digital nomad friends that definitely fall into that bucket. So anything you want to add to that, Jeff?
Yeah, and let's talk about, there's a lot of different veins within marketing that you can travel down. And all of them, just like Marissa said, they're going to be on that spectrum where you're going to start at a mid-level, sometimes low-level, and it takes a while to get up. But once you do get up, you get very specialized and you can make quite a deal of money. But like pretty much all these veins, you do have to earn it for sure. It's not just come in and start making it. But a few of the different categories is like you've got like a marketing project manager role. That one kind of going to end up on your higher end. If you generalize in marketing and like with an aim of becoming a director of marketing for the company, a CMO, a VP, that kind of thing, the more generalist roles that run things tend to make the most money for sure. And then you've got other facets like paid marketing. So anybody that's running like paid ads, all that kind of stuff. You've got SEO. That's another component of marketing. I'm not going to get into social media because it's kind of its own type of thing. You've got marketing coordinators.
There's so many. Anything? I'm sure. I did brand marketing for a lot of years as well. Brand marketing. There's so much. So but I would say
product manager.
There's so much of that. But it's going to be, I feel like, closer to that 50, 60, 70K kind of entry-level jobs probably you're looking at if you've got some solid experience just to then but definitely we know a lot of marketers who are making that 100 to 200K plus range, but it just takes more of that time and years and experience to kind of build your way up is the message I would have there. So definitely can be one of the highest paying ones. Definitely lots of marketing jobs out there and available. We commonly see it, but it's like I just wanted to be really mindful of, don't think you're going to just jump right into that highest paying one as an entry-level job, whereas some of those other ones you really can.
Took 10 years. Took me 10 years to get to the top. So it's a slow burn for sure.
Cool. I was going to say right before 5, I was going to say if anyone, like as you're hearing these types of jobs, if you're not yet traveling, you'd love to see like how do you find companies that are actually hiring to let you travel anywhere while you work, to see what kinds of jobs. We send these emails out each day to people on our email list, to people in our membership. But just to get started, if you check out beachcommute.com/nomad jobs, we'll send you 5 companies that are actively hiring today for all sorts of some of these types of roles and a mixture of other entry-level, mid-level roles. So if you're really curious and want to see like who are these companies hiring, what are the roles, what are the job descriptions, and not waste your time on job boards with jobs that don't actually let you travel, check out beachcommute.com/nomad jobs. So with that, Jeff, you want to hop into number 5?
Yeah, number 5 is a recruiter, and that's kind of the same story that we're having with the marketing types of people. You've got a wide range of money that you can earn. I've seen as low as around 40 to 50K, and then as high as 200K plus. I had a friend that was a recruiter for recruiters in tech. It's like super specialized, and this particular career, a lot of it has to do with building a personal network. That's almost 90% of your worth as a recruiter is that personal network that you have and able to access companies and people. And the more that you build that personal network, the more your value goes up and the more you can earn. But again, just like marketing, I can't think of anybody in recruiting that started at a high level. I think it really is one of those ones you just kind of earn your way up, and you just keep building your value through your networking and through your connections.
Perfect. I agree. I don't have much to add to that one except that, definitely can be. I know a couple off the top of my head that I've traveled with, so we know that it is common digital nomad job. And like you said, I also know some people who are sort of like entry-level recruiters for companies that were making enough money to be traveling anywhere, traveling with us, doing all the things. And then some people who have been in it for years and have built that niche and network and are making like fantastic money, like more than everyone else who we're with. So that's why it can be one of the highest ones. Yeah.
In terms of the actual job too, you kind of see a range of activities. It's kind of like on the lower end when you're starting. A lot of people just be
people online,
scouring LinkedIn and shooting out cold messaging over and over and over and over and over again. And then you've got some of the people that are more established. They're going to be on the phone a little bit more. Maybe the names are coming to them from junior level recruiters, and then they're actually trying to negotiate with potential candidates and trying to land people and a little bit more screen time, I would say, a little bit
phone
more
time, action calls, like live work. Perfect.
Kind of thing.
All right. Well, let's move to number 6 then. And number 6 is working in cybersecurity. So this one makes good money. I remember traveling in Oman with someone who did this. I was just in Costa Rica with someone who works in this. So definitely we see this with real people traveling with here. One thing with cybersecurity, it can be a little tricky sometimes of like where you can travel. And so like you have to be super cyber secure to do this cybersecurity job. So for example, when I was in Oman, which is just a bizarre country of like workarounds and things regardless in the Middle East, but she had to bring, her company gave her a burner laptop specifically and a burner phone, which is more common, but to go to this country and work. And I was talking to someone else recently who like lost their computer in cybersecurity and their company had to like wipe it clean and send them a new one. So that could be tricky traveling as well. So it can be a little bit tricky, but it's doable. People are doing it and it pays well. I feel like this is one that even like if you have this specialty and this knowledge, like more, this is closer to the kind of software engineer of higher paying from the entry level get-go, and then you can make more and more pretty quickly. So it is one of the higher paying ones, and it is one of the higher paying ones earlier on as well in my experience. Anything you want to add there, Jeff?
Actually, I think I interviewed one in a podcast a long time ago. I don't remember.
Sounds like an animal you've seen. I saw one of those ones.
I saw one of those in the wild, I mean, it's one of those things that I know is common and exists.
Yeah.
Just, I haven't.
Yeah, it is fewer people. And
but it's good money, though, for sure. I do know that.
I feel like there's people who are always like, it's such a needed role these days, and it's not as common because it does take a little bit of specialized knowledge and understanding. There's a little bit higher barrier of entry to start it, which is why it's higher paying to begin. It's not quite as common. I would say, again, like I know 100 times more software engineers than I know people in cybersecurity of our digital nomad network, but I do know them. It does exist and it is well paying. So it's out there if that calls to you. So last one, Jeff, you want to take number 7 away and then I can add anything to it?
Last one on the list already. All right. We're on to sales. That's kind of covers a broad territory there because there is no just like pure sales job. You got sales managers, you got regional sales, you got all kinds of stuff. But the gist of it is you are bringing in revenue for a company in whatever way that company is determining the best way to bring in revenue. And oftentimes it's on the phone. You're actually having quite a few sales calls, right? And that itself, I mean, I know it can be trained, but most of the salespeople that are really successful that I know, they got it in them. It's just baked into their core personality where they get jazzed, they get energized by convincing people of stuff and doing it in a way that benefits their organization. It's I wouldn't say it's as much like marketing where time and experience kind of gets you more money. I think it's skill and effectiveness. Like it's a very merit-based thing. If you're just really good at sales, you're going to beat it. Yeah, you can kill it. You can make, we know some people that make a lot of money, but you got to like it and you got to want to be on the phone. These people are on the phone more than anybody that I know in the professional world or digital nomads, What would you have to add to that? I think it's a great just reminder to someone listening that like as a nomad, you might want to be on different time. Like there's pros and cons to all these different jobs, right? Software engineer, it's like you just have more flexibility, can be on any time zone, you can work more when you want. Whereas salespeople, like you said, it's like you're often on, depending on your time zone, or maybe there's people all over the world you're talking to and it doesn't matter, but you're on calls a lot of the day, and that really changes the kind of Wi-Fi you can have, the kind of accommodations, that sort of thing. But salespeople, like there's almost no cap to how much you can make. And the people who work in like high ticket sales, closing sales, making commissions for the types of programs or products that they're selling. I can think of 2 people who I know really well off the top of my head who I've traveled with who make really great money. They're on calls all the time, but and like you said, it wasn't to me. It is a great, like if you have it in you and it sounds appealing and it sounds good to you, you don't have to work, as Jeff said, like 10 years in marketing to get to the top. If you just kind of start somewhere, prove that you can do it, you can bump around real fast. And people, you just get paid so well in sales because it's a lot of commission. Like you can make a salary, but it's also commission based. And so if you prove yourself, you can jump up really fast because no one cares if you've been working
1 year or 30 years if you can prove that you can, close the deals and make this company money quickly. So you can make a lot of money, but as a nomad,
totally merit-based.
And it takes a very certain type of personality to do it, and just know that you will be on calls a lot of the day and have to work certain times and make sure you have good Wi-Fi. Maybe you need a good background or not, depends. But it's definitely can easily be one of the higher paying as a digital nomad. Real people are doing it, and you can do that quickly. So that was 7. This is good. This is one of the more rapid ones we've done, Jeff. But any other, just like as you take a step back and look at the umbrella of these 7, or just any thoughts on the highest paying digital nomad jobs out there? Any last messages or thoughts?
Yeah, before you go and hop on LinkedIn and start looking at these job listings, just realize 50% of those job listings are fake. They're just harvesting your information. Only 5% or less that are marked as remote are actually gonna let you travel the world while you're working, right? So keep that in mind. Just keep in mind that it's a job unto itself, looking for the jobs. And then the real job starts of preparing to try to get the job, to connecting with the decision makers, connecting with the hiring manager, beefing up your resume specifically for that job, writing cover letters, prepping for interviews, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, at least do get on our list, beachcommute.com/email, and you'll get 2 remote companies per week. And then we've also got the daily service, a little bit more exclusive, a lot more opportunities in beachcommute.com /nomad jobs. Other than that,
that's perfect. And my reminder is these are 7 jobs that are some of the highest paying ones, but it doesn't mean that they're all the jobs out there. And if something else calls to you, there's something else that you love, there definitely is still opportunity to make great money in many other careers as well. But we wanted to hone in on really just some of like where most people are making kind of top money, getting top paid as employees while you travel, because we get this question asked a lot. And it's one of the most top search things as well that just will give you bad information. So we wanted to clear up the misnomers, all the misinformation out on the internet. So hopefully this helped you. And again, check out beachcommute.com /nomadjobs if you want us to send you some of those remote companies hiring today. And other than that, we'll see you next week.